Hello everyone, welcome to Redmen TV. It's Oppo preview time and I'm joined with Johnny from Newcastle Fans TV. Looking ahead towards Liverpool versus Newcastle, Saturday night kickoff. Welcome Johnny.
Hi, welcome everybody.
Right, Rafa Benitez, I'm going to have to start with him.
Yeah.
I'm in two minds here. Is Rafa going to go on the beach or is he going to remain professional and try and get 3 points to Newcastle, your last home game of the season, and show everyone what you're made of?
Oh, sorry, Liverpool fans, but I think he'd be very professional. Look, he is probably the most professional manager in one of the clubs. Well, especially in the last 10 years at the club. We've obviously had like Steve McLaren, John Carver, Alan Pardew. I think there's obviously Rafa Benitez is a million miles more professional than them, and I think he won't allow the players to put their flip-flops on, regardless of his 2 games left. It's the last home game of the season. It might even be Rafa Benitez's last home game of the season, so he'll not want to leave on a dampener. And I think for me, I think Liverpool fans would be slightly worried because if anybody can get a result against a big team, Rafa Benitez certainly can.
And playing on to that Rafa thing, if it might be his last home game of the season, if he does stay, are the Newcastle players within that side that are playing for their future?
If he does stay, I would say the likes of Jonjo Shelvey, Matt Ritchie, obviously being muted with their moves away. Shelvey to West Ham for £20 million won't go away. Matt Ritchie has always been kind of linked with a move away for whatever reason. They're the sort of players that you would probably expect to be rumoured. Isaac Hayden wants to leave the football club for family reasons. So again, you look at them three, they're 3 big voices in the changing room. And if Rafa loses them, and if he's still the manager, it's a big summer. But I feel that if he stays, he maybe even can try and persuade Isaac Hayden to stay. He maybe can see a little bit out of Jonjo Shelvey. I think because Jonjo Shelvey on his day he's a hell of a player, and especially when those Hollywood balls, work to the likes of a Perez, a Rondon, and Almiron, who's unfortunately injured for this game. We can be very difficult to play against it, especially at home, especially at St James's. Likes of Man City have struggled. We managed to beat them, help these out a little bit in I think it was February. So we've got that sort of performance in us, and I think that's what probably Liverpool fans are maybe slightly nervous about.
You mentioned 2 players there in Perez and Rondon. Are they the danger men for Newcastle? Obviously, Perez is coming to a good bit of form. He scored a hat-trick the other week. There is a slight doubt with his injury, I believe. And Rondon's one of those tricky players. I think you do lump the ball up to him, but that strength that he has of holding the ball, playing, bringing other players into the fold. Is that where Newcastle need to exploit Liverpool by using those 2?
Yes, I would say. Well, Perez is undoubtedly the man in form for Newcastle. 11 goals in the Premier League this season. He just can't stop scoring. I think he'll be fit. I think he's pretty much said on his social media that he'd be fit for the game on Saturday, and that's a massive bonus for us because he is that little number 10 that just can find little pockets of space and can win free kicks for us. We're pretty good at set pieces. He can link up well with Rondon. So he's definitely probably the main man to watch. But Solomon Rondon, for me, has to stick on Joel Matip because Virgil van Dijk, for me, and I'm sure many Liverpool fans will agree, that he's the best centre-half in the world. Obviously, forget about the Barcelona game. That's one you can have one bad game, especially against a player like Messi. But he is the best centre-half in the world, and I think Rondon's probably going to get told to stick with Matip. Matip's had a good season, but I know who I'd rather have Rondon against out of the 2 centre-halves. If they make it a physical battle, hold the ball up, try and win free kicks, try and bring the likes of Perez into play. Probably going to be Christian Atsu, who I don't think will scare many Liverpool full-backs or Liverpool fans. But again, he needs to try and get them into the game. And if that can happen, and maybe Liverpool are slightly off it, then I think Rondon and Perez will fancy it. I think obviously the crowd will make a massive difference as well. The crowd will be well up for it as well. They'll want to try and make a small part in this title race as well. So it's going to be a tough night, but Rondon and Perez need to play really, really well, have the best games of the season, and Van Dijk and Matip in particular need to have an off day, which is very rare.
On the flip side of that, where's the points that Liverpool can exploit? Is there any concerns you've got as a Newcastle fan of thinking, that front 3 we mentioned before have just actually been on an unreal form this season. He's got a ridiculous amount of goals. If one of them's not on form or one of them's double marked, the other one pops up and stuff. Are they a concern for you? Is that something Newcastle can deal with?
I think 1 to 11 and probably your 3 subs are probably a concern for most teams in the Premier League. But 53 goals between Firmino, Mane and Salah, that's crazy. Like I said, I don't think Newcastle have scored 53 goals in 3 Premier League seasons. So that just tells you how good they are. I think right wing back is probably going to be where Liverpool should look at. regardless if it is Yedlin or Manquillo. Yedlin has the pace, so maybe you can start a counter, but defensively he's not as good as Manquillo. Manquillo is not a very good defender, so that tells you how good of a defender DeAndre Yedlin is. But Manquillo, defensively, he can make things a little bit difficult. So I think regardless, you're going to have to look at that right wing back, because regardless of if it's Mane, if it's Salah, whoever tries to stick on that left-hand side of the three, and then you've got Robertson overlapping, Robertson's been one of your, I think, obviously you look at the front three, but I think Robertson's arguably one of your best players this season. I think you'll probably not win it because you've got the likes of Van Dijk, likes of Salah, likes of Mane playing so well, but he's certainly got to be in contention because he's been absolutely brilliant. The amount of assists he gets, the amount of assists Trent Alexander-Arnold gets, it's a worry for most teams. But when I looked at this fixture at the start of the season, and when you spend the money on Alisson and you spend money on Keita, and only obviously Van Dijk had been there 6 months, you're just thinking, I hope we're safe by then, and we are safe, which is good. But to get anything, our defence have got to be rock solid.
Yeah, we've all had nightmares about Manquillo. I think that's something we got in common there. Another former Liverpool player I wanted to ask about was Jonjo Shelvey, and he was kind of, I think he grew on a lot of Liverpool fans because of the character that he had, and I think a lot of people are hopeful that he'd turn out better than he did. And there was someone who doesn't watch Newcastle on a regular basis. How has he performed under this Newcastle side under Rafa? Because those Hollywood shots he talked about before. I think that was a frustrating thing for him. We know he can take teams apart, and just a driven pass. He's got that quality, but he just seemed to be inconsistent. Was his problem? Is that still very much part of his game?
Yeah, well, he's still got that Hollywood ball in him. I think it happens maybe comes off 1 in every 7, 1 in every 8, and it's not frequent enough. But my argument would be as well with Jonjo Shelvey is that he hasn't got the players around him really to go, I think he's going to go for that pass. I think if he was in a Liverpool man, I don't think he's good enough to get in either of those sides, I must say. But if he was in that sort of squad, he'd maybe go for those passes and maybe look for the likes of Salah, the likes of Mane, because of the pace they've got. For me, since Rafa came in, obviously he was bought by Steve McLaren, but since Rafa came in, he has improved as a player. He definitely has, and he wore the captain's armband against Brighton as well after not playing for 4 games. So that tells you that he's very inconsistent, and he has been injured as well, which hasn't helped him. The emergence of Sean Longstaff has been really detrimental to him, but obviously very good for the club. He's a young lad. He was man of the match for me against Manchester City in February, or I think it was January even. But yeah, he's got a tough task to kind of remove him if they're both fit, because him and Isaac Hayden were forging a good partnership, and you couldn't really keep them out of the team. And I think Shelvey understood that. I think Shelvey got a little bit more maybe annoyed with Rafa is that when Hayden Longstaff was injured, he was playing Ki-Sung Young, he was playing Mo Diarmi. Shelvey on ability on himself is much better than Mo Diarmi and much better than Ki-Sung Young in my opinion. But I just think maybe Rafa doesn't trust him for discipline. I don't know, but he should be.
Isn't he?
He is, but he's only scored 1 goal for Newcastle as well. I think that's like in the Premier League, which he's played. We've got 2.5 seasons now. Obviously, had half the season when he first arrived, and then coming back up from the Championship. This will be 2 full seasons, and he's only scored the 1 goal. I don't think he's had many assists either. So this is a big summer for Jonjo Shelvey, because obviously there's always rumours that he might get sold to West Ham for around about £20 million. I think Newcastle could sell him because of his age, because he's more closer to 30 than he is 25, and I think that might be detrimental to him. But if it was me, I'd like him to stay, because I think he's a fantastic squad player, and I haven't got the trust that Mike Ashley and Lee Charney will give Rafa the money if he stays, because they never have done.
Yeah, I think Mike Ashley might be cashing in on that £20 million. Not going to get that offer again, is he?
Yeah.
And again, your season as a whole, has it been largely successful? There's this narrative, I think, with all the fans who don't watch on a regular basis of Championship side and the Premier League thing. You're comfortably safe, aren't you? Again with Rafa, is it frustration? Is it content? Is it what is it for a Newcastle fan to sum up your season?
It has to be content, because we haven't had the investment. We obviously brought Almiron in for £21 million, and that was a bit of a statement from the board to give Rafa a player that it's been muted, that he's been after for 12-18 months. However, I would still say some fans are frustrated, because if Rafa was given that money at the start of the season to spend on a couple more players, like if Almiron was in from the summer, Newcastle could be looking at a top 10 finish. Would they have got where Wolves are, where even Leicester are? I'm not too sure they get towards 7th or 8th, but we're only, I think, 4 points off West Ham, and West Ham have got a much better squad in depth than us. Like if you look at our bench, we've got Hosselu, Atsu, Mankio, Yedlin, and players like that. And you look at like someone like a West Ham where they've got Antonio Snodgrass and Lucas Perez and Jack Wilshere, and you're thinking we shouldn't be 4 points behind West Ham, but it just shows the type of manager we've got that tactically that we can get points against teams that we probably shouldn't be getting points at. So I think there is an element of frustration, but it is a massive sum. I cannot really repeat myself. If Rafa does stay and Newcastle either gets sold, which has obviously been mentioned a few times over the last 12 months, or Mike Ashley and Lee Chon decide, we'll let him have a bit more money. Maybe it's been muted that they're going to get, say, £55 million to spend in the summer. If they sell Hayden because he wants to go for family reasons and get about £15 million, that's about £70 million to play with. If Rafa's allowed to spend that money, then you can see what he's done with teams like Napoli. They sold Cavani for £60 million, and they brought players in for £51 million altogether. One of those players is Koulibaly. Koulibaly has been mooted to go to Manchester United for £90 million.
Yeah,
you're making a profit and more just on that player itself. So it's a tough one to take. If it's a tough one to take regardless. But if this is like Rafa Benitez's last game as Newcastle manager at home, I'll be very, very disappointed, and I think a lot of fans will be very upset, because I think it's kind of going to be the last straw with Mike Ashley in that sense, because Newcastle fans are always renowned to getting 50+ thousands in the ground. I genuinely think that will not be the case next season if he doesn't stay. Sorry, because I think he's the hope that Newcastle fans have.
Well, and back to the game on Saturday night then, let's have your score prediction. If you see Rafa around Newcastle, tell him to put his flip-flops on for me, but what do you think is going to happen?
Well, just like I mentioned first, I do actually want Liverpool to win the title. I think, for me, obviously,
refreshing to hear from an opposition fan.
Yeah, my brother's a Liverpool fan, so it has to have a little bit of an element in that. But yeah, I think what I'd like to happen is Man City lose the last two games and News get 4 points, or 3 points, and Newcastle can win on Saturday night. But I'm realistic enough to know that Newcastle probably won't win. With my Newcastle heart, and I'll say 2-2. But I wouldn't say if we get beat, we get beat. I can, Liverpool have got some fantastic players, but I'll say 2-2. We've had some good matches over the years, so I think it'll definitely be one that you want to watch on the television. I think it is going to be one of those games that I think everybody around the world's going to watch, because it's Liverpool being very, very close to a title race. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be enthralling. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-2.
2-2. Okay. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But
yes.
I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. Johnny, thank you very much. Don't forget to like the video. Go and check out Newcastle Fans TV. Go and subscribe. Go and support them. Go and check out their content. Johnny, thank you very much once again. I hope Rafa stays for you. I hope Mike Ashley pulls his finger out and supports you like he should do. From the outside, it's frustrating to watch, because he's such a big club and a massive club. And enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Exactly the same to you, Selves.